Hey, Las Vegas. Thanks for joining us back here on Vegas Realty Check, your local Las Vegas real estate news show. I'm Trish Williams.
And I'm Tiana Carroll. Welcome back, Vegas.
Yes, and if you're watching our show, if you're liking our show, please like, share, subscribe. We now have a subscribe button in the, a subscribe link, in the description for the show, where you're able to subscribe to the show. And if you really like the content that we're providing, you can send a sponsorship donation to us through the subscribe link, which is located in the show description. So please check that out and subscribe, and you'll get notified every time that we have another show come out.
Yep, and we do that every Thursday, 9:30-ish a.m. We're a little behind
depending
today.
on traffic.
Ish, depending on traffic. A little late today. But all in all, we cover what's going on in real estate news and notes on what's going on in our local environment, as well as our local numbers, which really is the determining factor of what's happening in the market.
Yeah, what's happening in our market. So,
right, Vegas.
Yeah, so this week I was scrolling through the alternative news source, which is Instagram.
Okay. Oh, I thought it was TikTok. I'm off.
Well, that's where most people get their news these days, right? Instagram, TikTok, everything. And that can be dangerous.
Well, everything can be dangerous. The real news can be dangerous, in my opinion.
This is true. No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. So as I was scrolling through Instagram, I seen a lot of talk about, the market's not doing so well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything that I was reading this week coming up to this show was all about the market's going to crash again. The market's going to crash again. The market's going to crash again.
Yeah.
But we have different opinions.
Well, I mean, our opinions are based on, in my opinion, facts, because this is what we're seeing. And the facts of the matter is both of us were out shopping for homes last weekend.
Yep.
Out with clients looking at homes, and very short amount of homes available.
Small amount of homes available, days on market are shrinking, and multiple offers are happening across various price points in our valley.
Yes, and the lowest amount of multiple offers I seen on any desirable home was at least 6.
Okay, so I saw 4.
Okay.
But it was also a $900,000 home.
Okay.
So.
Well, yeah, still. So that just does not indicate a crash to me. We have to have buyers stop buying in order to crash, right?
Yeah, and those prices have to be falling, and because we have a shortage of inventory, the prices just aren't coming down.
Right. Except for speaking of that,
numbers.
let's
Okay,
go into our numbers, because we
rewind.
did see a little bit of price decreases, which is weird. Last year we seen a spike in them, or last week.
Yep,
we
last
seen
week.
a spike in them, and we seen another spike in decreases this week, which is really odd to me, being the shortage of inventory, the multiple offers. I'm not sure really where those are coming from, unless they're like those little dollar increases. Maybe that is what it is.
So that's the thing I was going to talk about, because for weeks leading up to last week, our price decreases were less than 100 each week, right?
Yes.
And then last week it spiked up, not quite 500 price decreases, but it was out of nowhere. It went
Over
from
300.
Right.
Yeah.
It's over 300. And today we're under 300. We'll talk about that in a second. But when I pulled the numbers, I went and looked, and the majority of them are just 1.5% changes to keep it going. I did see a 10% change on a house, so it dropped at $50,000, which was a substantial drop, but it could have been overpriced in the first place, or wasn't getting any traction or condition. There's so many factors that go into how houses should be priced and what makes them desirable for a buyer.
Well, no matter what price you're at, or what amount you're at, there's what market you're in, there's always the need for price reductions if your home is overpriced. If it's not getting the activity, if the buyers aren't showing up, sometimes, we can put a price on a home, but the market speaks for itself and says, no, we're not interested in that home for that price, or that area for that price. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So there always comes a need for a price decrease in that situation. However, in this market where we're in right now, where inventory is very short and there's a lot of buyers in the market, we usually don't see a lot of price decreases.
Right.
But
let's talk about the inventory. Let's get the inventory numbers out, and then we can talk about why those decreases seem to be happening.
sure.
Okay.
Single family.
3,372 single-family homes for sale on the market, and an additional 12 are contingent upon sale. That's new to our MLS, and that basically means that they're in contract with another buyer. But if you can beat that buyer, all they have to do is give the buyer you're in contract with notice, and then you can cancel that contract, and off you go to your new buyer.
Is that how that is working now?
Well, that's what the contingent upon sale is. So let's say you're my buyer A and I put you in contract at 123 Main Street,
Yeah.
right? So you're in contract, and then our producer is selling that house. So another agent brings buyer B to the producer and says, we don't have any contingencies. We can just buy this house. And they're like, oh, I love that idea. So it's kind of like an official backup offer, because we didn't have real.
It's a backup offer. Though.
Right.
Buyer A has to default and
Buyer
not,
A doesn't
not
have-
perform, not perform or.
No. The seller has the ability to go to buyer AU and say, hey, Trish, I love that you want to buy 123 Main Street, but I've got this other offer coming in. You have 72 hours. I don't have the form in front of me. I think it's 72 hours to release all your contingencies.
Oh.
So,
And
if
that's
you can't,
after you're in contract.
yeah, that's when you're in contract.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure brokers are going to love that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because usually the way contingent upon sale works is once you're in contract with the buyer, that buyer has to do something of non-performance, or you can't just cancel their contract while those
Right.
contingencies
That's the contingent
are
upon
active.
sale addendum.
Mm-hmm.
This is the contingent upon sale status. So then it's a little bit different. You have that same 72 hours, I believe. Should I pull up the form?
Yeah,
Can
because
you-
the status
can you-
doesn't affect the actual contract you have with the buyer.
The status, the reason they did the status, my understanding, and I could be completely wrong, but from what I got from, it was Lee Barrett talking to Aldo Martinez about when it was coming on the podcast, and it basically was saying that it's now an official backup, and then a seller doesn't have to stay in a contract when there's other offers available. Which, I don't know, my buyer agent soul was like, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah,
I hate it all.
I feel like that's going to be a field day for brokers. If that is the case where they can actually back out of the contract, there has to be a stipulation in that contract saying the seller has the right to back out.
Yeah, I think it's a 72-hour release of contingency. And if the buyer doesn't release the contingency, then I wish we would have known we would have been talking about
That's
this.
okay. We can bring that up next week. Let's get
I'll still search for it.
Okay.
I just have slow internet right now, and I have to go into forums. Okay, so 12 of those contingent upon sale. So 12 sellers out there in the world have the ability to get rid of their existing buyer and take somebody who doesn't have contingencies if they don't want to, if I'm correct.
I want to look into that too this week just to make sure, because I did not realize that it affected the contract. I thought it was just the status.
Oh, I think they can get rid of one contract. Let's find out. All right. So while I finish looking at that, you go ahead and talk to us about our
on price decreases. So
our solds. Did we talk about our solds?
I do not have the sold numbers.
Sold are 463.
Okay, 463 closed, inconsistent with what our monthly numbers have been. So back to the price decreases, where you're seeing those 1-2% price decreases that are just very minimal. Sometimes they reduce it by like a dollar. And the reason why they do that is every time when there's a price adjustment on the MLS, whether it's up, down, anything at all, even if it is $1, that will then re-push that listing out to any buyers who have auto alerts set up for listings with that criteria. So sometimes those minimal price reductions are not because the seller is being generous and taking $1 off their price. It's because they want that listing to be pushed back out to everybody again. If your listing is not moving and if your listing is not getting any activity, I think doing those dollar decreases is silly because it's not going to trick buyers into anything. Even though it does push it back out in front of them, usually you need to make a substantial or at least a noticeable adjustment in price in order for the buyers to actually bite on it.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I think that them changing it just a bit is for the purpose of the hot sheet, but not to sort of fake out the buyers that are already on the market. Always keep them top of mind, so anytime there's new buyers coming on the market, they're automatically there. You don't want to be on the market, like, say, 30 days, and a new buyer comes on the market and you feel like you've missed out on those.
No, yeah, but once the new buyers have their alert set up, they'll get every listing.
They'll get all of it.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I don't do it, but I'm just saying that was always my assumption on why people do it.
Yeah, they do it just to put it back at the top, and it's a strategy. But if your home is not getting the activity, it's probably price or condition, and that's really what you need to look at rather than making those little dollar changes. Did you pull up your form?
I did pull up the form, but in my thing, I only have the contingent upon sale addendum that you would supply when you put in an offer saying like, hey, I got to sell a house, and once I sell my house, I want to buy your house.
Right, and in the contingent upon sale addendum, so what that addendum that goes along with the contract says is that, if say today is what is today, the 6th of the month?
Is that where we are?
Yes, we're in July 6th,
July 6th, here we are.
I think we're July 6th.
We are, I'm just messing with you.
So July 6th, so say that you made an offer and you got your offer accepted today on a property, July 6th. But you're selling a home, and that home, your buyer's contingencies on that home will all be cleared by July 30th. So when you make an offer on the other home, you have your loan contingency, your appraisal contingency, the other contingencies that you put in there, your due diligence. But you're also saying that if anything happens with the home you're selling before July 30th, which is the day that all your buyers' contingencies are going to be lifted, if anything happens in your home that you're selling, falls out of escrow, or the buyer cancels by July 30th, you still have the right to cancel this contract with the seller and retain your earnest money deposit back without any repercussions other than what you spent on your home inspection or appraisal. So that doesn't necessarily, as long as the seller agrees to that date based off the contingent upon sale addendum, that doesn't relieve the seller of the obligation to sell you the home on the terms they agreed to. I will, during this week, I'm going to dive in.
The contingent upon sale addendum, there's the buyer's right to cancel, but there's also the seller accepting a bona fide written offer from a third party, the buyer's delivery notice of acceptance. So they can go in and the seller can give buyer written notice to the fact that they've got another offer. Within 3 calendar days of receipt of this notice, the buyer will waive contingencies of the sale of this closing this property. So right there in the addendum, if you're in a contingent upon sale status and they have this, then the seller gets a bona fide offer, which is another one saying, hey, I ain't got no contingencies, come and get me. Then they can give them, and it's 3 calendar days, and they have to either drop all of their contingencies or they can go out of contract.
Okay, well, that's the revised addendum, so that's what they just brought in. I had not looked at that addendum until today. The status is just a few weeks old where they sent out this revision. So that is a new term that was added to the addendum that was not there before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it might have been there before.
No, that was never there before. I am positive that was not there before.
Okay.
Yes, so.
Okay, so we'll agree to disagree on that one because I think it's been there since 2022.
Okay.
I think only the status is something that's new has changed. But this is G, I believe that is, well, let's just see when it was revised. Contingent upon sale addendum revision 10/2022.
I have never seen that in there before. Unless maybe I have an old form. I don't know. I'd never seen that in there before.
Yeah.
I'll go through my documents and see. But yeah, I'd never seen that section G.
Yeah. And so that's basically saying that if you can give us a better offer, we have the right to take it. And all we have to do is tell the other buyer 3 calendar days.
Okay.
That's messed up.
That is that's
like the
that's
buy
different. The old I like the old form better.
That's like the buy-sell version of like the 30-day notice to vacate on month to month. That doesn't give you much time.
Yeah.
You are at the mercy of the market then.
Yeah. No, I have not seen that form. I will go through my forms today and make sure I have everything up to date.
Excellent.
Okay. So, in news reports, we have 37% down on sales from last June. That was reported in the news today.
Nationally. Yep.
Yes. And last June, our sales numbers were. That was right when our market started shifting. So our market started shifting June or July of last year. So that is the reason why we're 37% down in sales from last June, is because last June we were still in a pretty hot market where prices were up a little bit.
Yeah,
and
it
sales
was
were
on
up a
fire
little bit.
out here, literally and figuratively.
Yes, this is true. And then Fannie Mae has changed their status. They have they say that there's a decline at a slower rate than expected for an inventory shortage due to the inventory shortage. So initially, Fannie Mae at the beginning of the year had said that we're going to have a decrease in home sales and prices this year and a continuing decrease next year. Well, now they're looking at it and they say, well, this isn't really going to be the rate that we thought it was going to be. The market's actually doing pretty well and prices are staying pretty stable due to the shortage of inventory.
Right, which I thought was so interesting because all week when I was preparing for this week's show, every article I was reading was impending market crash. It's doom. It's later than we thought, but it's coming, and this and that. And then what was it?
Yeah,
this
Fannie
morning?
Mae doesn't agree.
Yeah, and then this morning or yesterday when that came out, Fannie Mae's like, listen, we don't have a lot of inventory shortage, so we're keeping those prices high or not high, but stable.
Yeah. And a lot of these Instagram posts and things that I've been seeing about market crash, market dropping, blah, 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 they're citing things like this 37% down in sales, but not really looking at the data behind it. And a lot of it is realtors.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you out there in the market? What's going on? Why are you posting this? But not all of them. I mean, I still get data from lenders.
Yeah, I get data from about 5 different lenders, and it feels like it's every day.
Yeah, and they're so different from each other. Last week I got one email from one lender that said loan applications are up 60%.
I got another one saying they're down.
Yeah, and you had told me about a lender that sent you one that said that they're down. So it's maybe it's at their companies. I don't know. I don't know where this data is coming from and why it's so different from each other.
Well, I think that's the issue that I always have with data or the numbers. They can be manipulated or whatever. Let's say we have 10 lenders in one office and one's a top producer and they're doing 6 loan applications a day, and then you have somebody who's not producing and they might be doing 1 or 2 applications a week.
Yeah.
So their idea of what's happening in the market is going to be very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah, and over this last week, just personally with clients that we're working with directly, I've seen an up in people that are applying for approvals, applying to buy new homes, ready to start shopping. I've seen an increase in that. So again, I'm not the loan officer that takes in all those applications, but I've had an increase in people that are going out and getting started on the process.
I too have had a bump in buyers in the past couple of weeks, which I was like laughing. I'm like, oh, we're coming to the July slow. I'm going to get to relax for a minute. Yeah, that's not happening.
And then there is July. Every year since I have been in real estate, 2014, 4th of July, something about that date or that month, because we hit triple digits in temperatures here. That's what I've always thought it was. It's too hot to shop for homes.
I was out in this heat wave and it was not that hot.
It was not that hot. But we have a slowdown usually every July in home shopping and people that are out there looking and people that are showing up at open houses and everything, just showings all together. So I'm interested to see how this July is going to play out, because this year has not been the norm.
No, everything about this year has been different. And usually by now I would be wrapping up any escrows that I have, which I did, got them all closed as of yesterday. But now I've got buyers who are coming out of the woodworks. Well, not all the contracts are closed. I got a couple, but now I've got more buyers. Yesterday I had 2 phone calls from buyers that I talked to at the beginning of the year who thought they'd want to buy next year when the rates come down.
Yeah.
And then it was all the conversations like, hey, listen, I don't know what inventory is going to be. You might want to just get in contract and refinance after 6 to 18 months, depending upon, your loan and your ability.
Yeah, we're still under 4,000 in inventory, so there is not a lot. That's every price range.
That's every price range, every part of the valley. Like if you are in our Vegas Bowl, that's what you have to choose from, regardless if you're buying for $250,000 condo or a $3 million house.
Yeah.
Those are your options, kids.
And under 400, those are just
Flying off the shelves.
Those are not even around. So our topic, we have about 10 minutes left to talk about what we meant to talk about today on the show.
Well, we did need to talk about the impending crash that everybody says is happening, but now Franny Mae has come out and supported what we've been saying, that I can't see a crash happening when we don't have inventory. If I had 7,000 homes sitting on the market and they're not going anywhere, I'd feel real nervous.
Yeah.
But the fact that we have this inventory shortage, we're getting multiple offers coming over appraised value, over list price. That does not seem like a crash to me. That seems like we're the sort of little mini frenzy of what was happening last year.
Right, absolutely. So when is the best time to sell? That's always
now
such a loaded question. Yeah, now is always the best time to sell. Well, it really depends.
Well, now is always the best time to buy.
Right.
If you can get a house.
So sellers, you think the no-brainer question or the no-brainer answer to that question is you always want to sell in a seller's market. But that's not always the case. And we were talking about that a little bit this weekend. And I think that that's a good thing to address right now is, yeah, you would think that as a seller, you always want to sell in a seller's market because that's just seller's market. I'm a seller. That's the market I want to sell in. But most sellers, I'd say at least 90%, are selling and going to live somewhere else. They're going to buy again after they sell. And if you sell in a seller's market, that also means that you're buying in a seller's market. And that you really have to weigh out your options when it comes to that, and look at, why are you selling, and does this whole thing make sense? One of the questions that we are all getting a lot right now is from sellers is, I have a 2%, 3% rate, and is selling my home and buying a new home really the right choice for me?
Right. Does it make sense?
Does it make sense? And I'm just going to, call out the elephant in the room. I really don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, I think right now we're in the type of market that unless you have to make a move, a downgrade, an upgrade, a job transfer, something to that effect, then sit on your equity, be happy.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with that too, is sometimes the numbers aren't everything. Sometimes people, you could be at a 2-bedroom home and have another child on the way, and that 2-bedroom home isn't going to work for you anymore. Your quality of life, those numbers can make sense. If you have the equity, if you have money to put on a down payment on the next home, your loan balance isn't going to be that high. Even though it is at a higher rate, rates will probably come down at some time in the future. You have the option later on of refinancing, but do you really want to affect your quality of life by staying in a home that you don't fit in?
Yeah.
And it could be schools, it could be job transfers. There's hundreds of reasons why selling will make sense, even if the interest rates do not.
Right, regardless of what market you're in.
Yeah.
Because even in 2008, when the market was crashing and people still had job transfers or marriages or babies or divorces or whatever, real estate happened a lot.
Yeah, and you're not going to turn down that job, right? I would hope you're not going to turn down that job just so you can stay in your 2% interest rate.
Girl, I'm turning down
might.
every job. Work is for suckers.
Yeah, some people might do that, but in most cases, I mean, really, that's the thing. You can't get hung up on the numbers of what the rates are, because that is going to, you really have to look at the reason why you're moving.
Yeah, that's only a factor, and everybody wants to use the rates or the inventory or any kind of data as the excuse, but the reality is if you need to buy and sell, you're buying and selling regardless of what market you're in, period.
Yeah. And if you sell in a buyer's market, where, hey, that's not your market, right?
Yeah.
No, if you're selling in a buyer's market, you also, it's on the other hand, you have the opportunity of buying in a buyer's market. You
Yeah.
might have to sell your home at, with a deal, take a loss or take a hit. Right now, there's so much equity in homes, people are rarely taking losses.
Yeah, I haven't
But
seen a loss in a minute.
You might put some extra icing on the cake for the buyer, throw in some concessions, do some other things, take a little bit lower. But remember, you're purchasing in that same market, so you have a huge benefit there of locking in a good deal and committing, if you're doing a mortgage, to 30 years in that good deal. So that makes a difference. So people really, it's not really about being in a buyer's market or a seller's market. If you're selling and you're not moving anywhere and you just need to sell, seller's market's the market for you. Absolutely.
Yeah, or when you're in a seller's market and you're going to a different market, like if you're in a seller's market in California and then you're coming here where it's less expensive, then it makes sense. You're cashing out all that equity. You can throw it in a house here. It's fine. If you're from Vegas and you're going, say, to Nebraska, which the market is very, very different there, then that makes sense because you're going to cash out that equity. You're going to go over there. You're going to get a house at a lower price point. So that 6%, 7% interest isn't going to be as offensive as if you were buying at a higher price point here.
Right.
So that's always a good time. But when you need to buy or sell, you need to buy or sell. And that's just the reality of it. But I do love when sellers in a buyer's market are not pleased, I guess I can say on the show, not pleased that they have to pay closing costs for buyers or whatever. But then it's like a little shot in the arm of adrenaline when you say, but you get to ask your new seller for your closing costs. And they're like, oh, yeah. So it all works out in the wash.
Let's be honest, most of the time when sellers are selling, they're buying a home that's an upgrade that's usually a bit higher in price than what they're selling. So if they're paying their buyer's closing cost on the sell and then they're getting their closing costs paid on the purchase, they're actually getting more money than they lost there. So look at the big picture.
Yeah, and all of those things come down to having conversations, knowing what's going on in the market, talking to your realtor, and they can advise you. And if you are thinking of buying and selling, the very first step should be a conversation. What's my market doing? What am I thinking about doing? Having an outline of how you want to proceed. And the best way to do that would be to contact a realtor that knows what they're doing. Hey, how do they get a hold of you?
So if you want to contact me, so let me just tell you too, when you're thinking of selling, I meet with people very often that are thinking of selling, and we have a conversation first. I don't show up at your house ready to list it that day unless you want me to. I absolutely will. But when I show up, it's a conversation. What's your needs? What are you going to do? There has been times where I've showed up and I've talked to people and we went over everything, and we've mutually agreed that selling right now is not the time. So I am not a high pressure person where I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable or anything like that. So
those are the facts.
If you want to have a conversation and see if this is right for you, I'm absolutely happy to meet with you and go over that so we can talk about your decisions. My phone number is 702-308-2878.
Very nice.
Tiana, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, anybody who wants to have any kind of conversation, what the market's doing or if and when it's a good time to buy or sell, they can always call me or text me, 702-379-9948. My phone is usually in my hand.
Yes. And if you guys are liking our show, please download, subscribe, hit the like button if you're watching us on social media. Make sure you follow us. And we do have a new link in the description where you can subscribe to our show. And there's an opt-in for like $4 a month or $8 a month or whatever amount you choose, where you can show support for our show and the content that we're putting out by subscribing and donating to the show. And we would really appreciate that.
Yeah, that would be amazing. But make sure you like and share and subscribe if you do like the numbers, because next week is going to be our market report where we talk all numbers for the previous month and give a bigger overview than just the numbers we covered today for the past week.
Yes, absolutely. See you guys next week. And thank you so much for tuning in.
All right. Bye, Vegas. Have a good week. Stay hydrated.
Yes, for sure.